Hello, hello, hello. What is good? What the hell is going on? Alright, so I'm sure you already know, but Season 14 just came out. Huge patch, brand new season. A lot of item changes, a lot of item reworks. Some items are removed. There's no more mythic items at all. Obviously the map is different, but what most people are wondering is, about these items. What items should you be building on Kled specifically? The patch notes were super fucking long. And not only were they super long, but there's a lot of errors in the patch notes. A lot of what the patch notes say is getting put in the game was not put in the game at all. So I waited until the actual patch is live. It's live on NA, it's been live all day. I played a bunch of games earlier, and I also did some PvE testing before they were live, so I have a pretty good idea of what's actually good on Kled, what's useful, what's not so useful. So I just thought I'd make a quick video to go over, just to let you know exactly what I think about the current items and, how they work with Kled. Because, a lot of people are not going to have any idea what's going on, not going to know what's a good, build, what they should be building, what they shouldn't be building. So after I played some games, I think I have a pretty good idea of what Kled will be looking to do this season, at least for right now. Things could obviously change, but just for right now, all you need to know is, for the starting items, nothing changed. Everything is exactly the same. Door and Shield, Cole, Longsword, all the same. Door and Blade is exactly the same, except that it gives 3.5% lifesteal instead of Omnivamp. It does not give Omnivamp anymore. Some of these item set descriptions are not right. It says gain Omnivamp right there, but it doesn't. So it gives a little bit more lifesteal instead of Vamp, which is better for Kled because he autos a lot more than he heals from his abilities early game. Because early game, your Q and your E and your dismount Q are all considered AoE abilities on the creeps, so it heals you like nothing from Vamp, because Vamp gets reduced for AoE. But lifesteal, works 1-to-1 with his auto attacks. So, same thing with the starting items, just Door and Blade into melees, Door and Shield into range, no kill pressure matchups, and then Cole whenever you get an early back off. I don't really start Longsword that much these days compared to the Dorn items, but it's still an option if you want to be a little bit greedy, try to get your first item faster if you feel like your lane's really easy. But onto the actual items. These items right here, I think, are the items I'm going to be building the most often. These are the closest to a core build as you can get. Something that looks like this is how most of my builds are going to look, personally. So far, it's what I've been feeling. This Voltaic sword item, I think, is the strongest first item you can get on Kled. It's decently cheap. It's 2,900 gold, under 3k, for pretty good stats, AD, pen, haste, everything Kled wants. And if you don't know what these items are, I'll give a brief description of them so you just have an idea of what they do. But basically, this is just the Prowler's Claw replacement. So instead of giving you the auto attack slow after you dash, you just build this up over time and over attacking, kind of like how Static Shiv stacks or how Fleet Footwork stacks. So you stack this pretty fast on Kled because Kled autos and dashes often. So you can just walk up to something, if you rush this item first, which is what I've been doing, I've been straight rushing this item first most of my games. You just walk up to your lane opponent, you just auto them. It deals 100 bonus damage, slows them by 99% for almost a full second. It slows longer than the Prowler's Claw would slow. It helps you land your abilities for free after that because you slow them so much. And then after the end of your combo, after you've autoed 4 times with your W and used both of your E's, maybe your R, you're almost definitely going to proc the energized proc again at the end, because you were just moving and attacking so much. So you can get another slow proc, another damage proc. So yeah, just in general, building this first item, I think gives you the most kill pressure 1v1. I think it's just the strongest first item that I've seen so far. I've tried a couple other things, but I think it's the best first item. After that, I just will sit on the Tiamat. So I don't go straight into Hydra. There's 3 different Hydras right now: Ravenous, Titanic, and Profane, which is a lethality Hydra. But I don't think going straight into your Hydra second is worth it if you're going to go Titanic. If you're going to go either Ravenous or Profane, I think that's completely fine to go second item. because they're more of like spikes on their own. I think if you're going Titanic, which is, in my opinion, the best Hydra on Kled because it gives you the auto reset, which helps you remount faster, you know, burst with your W faster. I think this is the one I'm going to be building the most. And if I am going to be building that, I think just sitting on the team at second and then full buying another item is stronger, so you can sit on some more actual stats, more actual AD and pen, and haste depending on what you choose to buy. Your second item can be anything. I think Yomu's is the most like default, like go-to second item if you're not really sure what to build, especially if you're against like a squishier champ. Pretty straightforward, you know. It's just a lot of AD, pen, move speed, both in and out of combat, and it's very cheap. It's only 2,700 gold on this season, which is really good for what it gives you. You can also go Eclipse second, similar price, only 100 more gold. This is just a big AD haste item, so this doesn't give any pen. Instead, you get haste and you get the Eclipse proc, which you already know what it is. You know, shields you and does some max health damage. I think going like actual pen second is better, but if you're against like a tankier target or a champ that's stacking more HP, you could go Eclipse second, or you could build some pen first and then build Eclipse later for the max HP proc. You know, if you're against a champ that shields a lot, you can go Serpent second. Basically, you can slot your second item to be whatever you need for your lane opponent. You can even go Maw second. Like any of these cheap, like just stat-filled items is what I think you should be looking to buy second, and then finish your Hydra third. You know, if you don't know how to use Titanic Hydra's auto reset, the basics are just like when you auto attack and then you press Titanic Hydra, you'll instantly auto again. So you don't have to wait for your attack speed or anything like that. So yeah, like I said earlier, you can use it to remount faster after your 4 W autos. You can Titanic on the 4th auto to quickly auto a 5th time to get more courage. Or if you're just trying to burst someone, you can just, you know, use it on your 3rd auto to instantly get to your 4th W proc. You can just use it in straightforward ways like that, and I'll be using it a lot, so you can see how I use it. But yeah, those 3 items, Voltaic first, Filler second item, whichever one you want or prefer for that game, and then Titanic third. I think that's generally what I'm going to be doing on Kled the most. After that, it's situational, you know, game to game, but I think it's pretty straightforward. If you need percent pen, Mortar Reminder is your go-to. It's pretty much unchanged. It is unchanged, exactly how it was last season. You know, still good for all the same reasons. Pretty cheap, good stats, you know, crit chance, all that. Last 2 items, you can go, again, situational game to game. I'll talk about the other items, but, you know, Axiom Mark is always a good option. You know, Kled, when you're playing a split push heavy, like, focused playstyle, you know, ulting to, like, solo dive whoever comes to match you, and then getting the refund and being able to use your ult again while the person's, like, still respawning, so you can, like, force a 5v4 with your team. I feel like most of the games I carry with Kled, it's like, it goes along those lines. Like, I use my R to solo kill someone, I get the refund, and I'm able to use it again to, like, force a fight in our team's favor. So this is just a good item in general. It scales off of your lethality for the refund, but it's pretty easy to get other lethality items. You know, you're always going this. Your second item is probably going to be some kind of lethality item. Even if you don't have that much lethality, if you just have 2 lethality items, it's enough of a refund to be impactful. And then Maw is still super strong, same kind of thing, you know, anti-MR item. And then these items here are items that I think are just like going to be commonly, like, these are just common options, frequent options. I don't know how else to describe them. They're not core items. They're not items you're building every game. Like, you're not always going to need Serpents, of course. They don't always have a lot of shields. You know, sometimes you don't have space for opportunity because you're building Yomu's. But, like, for example, if I don't need Maw, I could go Opportunity and Yomu's together, you know, for a more, like, damage-heavy, move speed-focused build. You know, if they don't have a lot of max HP, then I won't need Eclipse. But, you know, if you are against multiple melee champs, multiple bruisers / tanks, you know, getting Eclipse at some point is strong. So I think it's worth considering. It also just gives good stats in general for low gold. The reworked Hullbreaker, it's same stats, basically the same stat line, but the passive works way differently. It has no benefit to being solo anymore. So being alone does not change this item at all. It works exactly the same all the time. Basically, your auto attacks build up to a strong 5th auto that deals damage based on your health, your max health. So for Kled, obviously it counts both of Kled and Skrall's HP bar, so the proc does a lot of damage to champions, and it also does extra to towers. And you still buff your cannon minion, again, whether or not you're like alone. You just always buff the cannon minion if you're around it, so that's pretty good. So this is still a pretty good split push item. It also gives move speed if you're like me and you don't build tier 2 boots a lot. But yeah, especially if you're going Titanic, which I'm going to be doing a lot. If you go Titanic and Hullbreaker together, like you have a pretty good amount of HP. They both scale off of your max HP. So you're actually doing a lot of auto attack damage, just like inflated with their items. If you're not going to like a more HP focused build and you're just trying to like, you know, pure damage, pure burst people, both IE and Quick Plays, you cannot buy them together, but I think they're both really strong options for like 4th, 5th type of item, like a late game item. This is similar to how Kled used to build in like older seasons, like before the mythics were even added to the game, so like, well, you know, several years ago. But Kled used to do this late game a lot. You know, I used to do this late game a lot if I was very fed against a very squishy team. Because you already have 20% crit from Mortal. So if you know, add IE on top of that, you have 40% crit is more than enough. So when you're autoing fast with your W and you're resetting with Titanic, like you're going to crit people. And if you ever crit somebody once or twice in an all-in, like you're probably instantly killing them, especially if they're remotely squishy at all. So it's really good. You know, Quick Blades works a little differently. IE is more for like bursting squishies. Quick Blades is more for like DPSing, because it helps you stick to the champion way more because it's refunding your cooldowns constantly every time you auto. So if you're against like tankier targets and you wanted to build a crit item, not a mythic, I almost said mythic, but like if you're against like Ornn or something, you're splitting against Ornn, or Scion, for example, excuse me. Quick Play is really good because it's just constantly refunding your Q and E, so you can just stick to somebody, you know, permanently. And then GA, same item, which has a different build path. There's no stopwatch in it, but it's pretty straightforward. If you're about to do a game-ending team fight, GA is pretty good. I think it speaks for itself, but like these items, I would say are like viable. Like on paper, these items are all somewhat useful. But I haven't found myself building them very often. Mainly because I don't really know when I would buy them. Like I'm never really in a game and I feel like buying these items. But it's also because I have not been able to test all these items. I've tested these items plenty. These items I haven't gotten around to testing too much. But for example, like PD got changed around a little bit. It's 10% move speed now by itself. Passive works similarly as it did before. Older seasons, I used to build PD on Kled a bit, so I kind of want to try this again just because of how they reorganize the stats. I mean, I think there's like a lot of crit items that just seem like they could be good on Kled. You know, Essence Reaver is, you know, he bought it a little bit last season, but it becomes a little bit more useful now because it gives haste. And just in general, there's like less haste in the game, less haste available to you. Compared to before, you know, before you're rushing Ravenous, you're getting 25 haste right away, and then your Mythic gives you haste. So there's a little bit less haste on the new items. You know, this Sundered Sky item, the description's not working here, but it's basically like a 55 AD, 15, I think, haste item, and it gives you health, 300 health about. And it just heals you based on your base AD and your missing health. Every like so many seconds you're around a champion, you can like proc it, get the heal. Actually, not every so many seconds you're around him. Your first auto on a champion will heal you based on your base AD and missing health, and then you cannot proc it again for like a few seconds on that same champ. So you can proc it on different champions. I've seen a few champions build this, like Garen. Garen just runs up, Qs you, you know, does bonus damage, heals, and then you know, just full combos you, whatever. I don't really know how it would work on Kled. I was kind of thinking like maybe if I was against a tankier champ, because it would help you sustain through their damage. But like I said, I've not really tested it much. But I think it could be useful. Ravenous, you know, no longer procs on your abilities, so this is only proccing on your auto attacks, the Hydra, the AoE. Still gives lifesteal, you know. I don't really know when I would buy this. Again, I feel like the only thing I can think of is if I'm against like a tank. Again, just so I could sustain through the lane push the lane, leave, not interact with them as much as I could. And then when I do have multiple items, it lets me just face tank them. I've not really tried it much. I've mostly just been going Titanic. The other Hydra item, the Lethality Hydra, is the most expensive one by 100 gold. The other two are both 3,300. Profane is a little bit more expensive. It builds at a Brutalizer at TMS. It's an okay build path. You know, you're not sitting on that much AD, but the only difference with this active is that the active does more damage when they're low health. If you use the active, it's like a Hydra Tiamat type of proc, so it just does AoE damage. If you use the active on somebody who's not low, it actually does less than Ravenous does. It only does more if they're under 30%. Same thing with minions, so you can execute minions too. No matter which Hydra you go, they're all useful. They're all strong. They're all good in different ways. Personally, I think Titanic's the best, and then these two are like tied for second. They're just like good at different things. I don't think you can go wrong with them. The biggest good thing about Profane Hydra that I can say about it is if you really want to go a full lethality build, Profane Hydra is pretty good for that because it gives 18 pen. So like if you wanted to go like Voltaic, Yomu's, like Profane Hydra, Opportunity, Axiom, Serelda's, you could do something like that, like literally 6 lethality items. That could work. That could definitely work against a squishy team. You'd have over 100 pen, and this gives you percent pen, scaling off of your lethality. The more lethality you have, the more percent pen Serelda's gives you. So it's pretty much only worth it if you're stacking lethality, which I haven't been doing much, so that's why I've just been defaulting Mortar Reminder. But I think if you wanted to go a full lethality build, that could definitely work. You just have to combo these two items. You don't even really have to think about your build. You really just click Brutalizer and just start building all these. Just build Voltaic, Hydra, you know, Axiom, Serelda's, some order like that. So it kind of makes building easy. Shojin works a lot differently. Now, every time you hit a spell, your future spell damage increases per stack, up to 4 stacks. Someone told me that this stacks off of minions. I have not tested that, but I have checked on Practice Tool with Kled, and your Q actually stacks it twice. It's 4 stacks max, is max spell damage. Your Q is 2 hits of damage. It actually stacks it twice. Same thing with your E, which is a little weird because normally abilities like Kled's Q don't count as like 2 hits. They usually count as 1, like just like dot damage type of thing, because it's the same spell. So I don't know if that's intended or not. But you can, for example, just EQ someone, and then you don't even have to recast your E. The pull and like... But actually, you do have to recast your E for 4. But just EQ E someone, that's like full stacks. But it does not buff your W damage. So that's why I don't have this as like a core item. It'll only buff your Q and your E damage. I assume your ultimate damage too. Somebody also told me that it buffs your Hydra damage. So, like I said, this sounds good on paper. Like, this sounds like it could be good. So I might change my opinion on it when I'm able to try it more. But, like, it is kind of expensive. It's over 3k a little bit. The stats are good, though. This could be good. I'll have to try it more. The main reason I don't buy it, I haven't really been buying, is because it has no synergy with your W at all. Your W does not stack it, and it does not benefit from it. So that kind of makes me not want to buy it. Unlike Quick Blades, like with Quick Blades, it does not buff your W either, but at least your W makes you auto fast, so it, you know, procs the Quick Blades ability refund often, so that's some synergy there. And of course your W you can just crit with your autos, so there's something there at least. Bloodthirster, pretty straightforward, it's the same item. If you're going a more crit focused build late game, it's pretty good. If you already have IE and you want like more crit items, I think Crit Kled is actually decent this season. There's a lot of good crit items. You know, you got Mortal, you got IE/Quick Blades, you got PD, Essence, Bloodthirster, like they're all decent options. You can easily make a crit build work. Stridebreaker, the thing with this item is that like it sounds so good, but when I actually tried it, it felt so useless. So I don't know if I was just like trolling, but like it does cost a little bit. You know, it does give you attack speed, which you don't really want, health, which is whatever. But the active, it slows enemies by 30%, and you get 30 move speed for every champion that you hit. So if you just Stridebreaker 2 champs, it gives you 60% move speed. You know, 90% if you hit 3 champs. Like it sounds like it would be good when you're in like a team fight. The only problem with this is that the active does no damage. Like, I'm not saying it does low damage, it does not do damage at all. They remove the damage from it. So it doesn't even stack your Conquer or anything. So I don't know, maybe that was just throwing me off. I was like used to the old one where it did damage when I used to build that like a while back. But I don't know, maybe I just didn't have a good experience the first game or two I tried it. Cyrilda's already talked about that. I think this is only worth buying if you're going full lethality. Otherwise, Mortar Reminder is a better percent pen item. Because it doesn't say it here, but it only gives you 20% armor pen. And then it scales off of your lethality. So the more lethality you have, the more percent pen it gives you. This item alone gives you 15 lethality, which is an extra 2% pen. So if you just buy Cyrilda, this is 22% pen. If you buy just Voltaic and then Cyrilda, it's like 24. 24, almost 25. So basically you need to build like 3 or 4 lethality items plus Cyrildas, and then it's actually 30%, equal to Mortal. So only if you're going a full lethality build would I recommend Cyrildas, but it is definitely viable, especially if you want to go Profane Hydra. I personally recommend you try every Hydra item and just see what you like the most, what feels the best for you, because I do think they're all useful on him. Like I said, I think Titanic is the best, but I do think you could try any of them, and they can all work in their own way, which is cool. Like, it's cool that all these items are actually viable. Because, last season, your build was pretty straightforward. Like, you were pretty locked into the same items almost every game. You were only switching, like, maybe 1 or 2. Anyways, for the purely defensive items, so, when you are just going, like, later in the game, when you just want to, like, an actual defensive item, especially if you're team fighting a lot, you might want a pure, like, tank item. There's actually some good options this season. A big problem with Kled in the past couple of years is that he had, like, no good armor item. Because Death's Dance, like, sucks on Kled. It has, like, really bad synergy with them. If you don't know, like, the bleed keeps ticking when you're dismounting, so a lot of times you'll die before you can even land off Scarl if you're low. You don't even get to be untargetable because the dot still damages you. And I've explained this a lot, but just in case you didn't know, if you get overkilled off of Scarl normally as Kled, so if you're mounted and somebody overkills your Scarl by like a few extra 100 damage, normally you would ignore all that damage. Like, you would just dismount, right? But if you have Death's Dance, it will still consider that damage was dealt to you, so you'll still bleed as if you tanked that damage. So a lot of times it makes you take more damage than you would have if you didn't have the item. So because of that, Kled had, like, not really a good armor item. All he had was fucking Guardian Angel, which is obviously, like, a situational item. You can't always build it, or it's not always useful. But with these new items, I think there are actually a couple good armor items. Randuin's is pretty cheap, 2,700 gold. For it's like okay stats. 400 health, 55 armor is good. It's not amazing, but it's good. But the passives are the really good part of the item. The rock solid passive, every time you take an auto attack damage, it reduces it based on your max health. So of course, Kled has a lot of max health because it adds both of his health bars together. So you reduce a lot of flat damage per auto attack. And then they buffed Randuin's this patch, I believe, to like 30% crit damage reduction from 25. I think it was 25% before, now it's 30%. They buffed it by like 5%. And crit items are really strong, so you're definitely going to deal with crit champs a lot. So I think this is good, and it still has the active where it slows everyone around you. Frozen Heart, normally I wouldn't recommend building this item before, because before it was 2,700 gold, so same price as Randuin's. But it gave you, it gives you a bunch of mana, which obviously is useless for Kled. But they buffed it by 400 gold this patch, which it might sound like a joke, but it's not a joke. I don't know why they did that. But this item is unbelievably broken, to the point where you could easily justify buying this on Kled as an armor item. It doesn't even give you health, which is fine, because you don't even need that much health. It gives you more flat armor than Randuin's, and it gives you haste, which Randuin's doesn't give you. And this gives you the attack speed slow. So I think they're both pretty strong. I think it just depends on who you're fighting, how much the passives matter to you. If you're against a more crit champ, then you go Randuin's. If you're against a more auto attack champ, you go Frozen Heart, for example. If they have a Callista, that's a problem, a fed Callista, or a fed, I don't know, Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw does a lot of magic damage though, but someone who's not really critting you, but they're just autoing a lot. Frozen Heart would be better, and if you're against, like, a more generic ADC like Draven, Caitlyn, then Randuin's would be better. But yeah, I think these are both decent late game options, especially if you have to team fight a lot. And then MR options, normally Maw is like more than enough. But let's say you're against a very AP heavy comp, or they just have a extremely fed AP champ like Evelyn or whatever, fed mage, and you want like a second MR item, there's actually some good options now. And by good options, I mean, I missed one here, but I should also put Force of Nature. But basically, this one item here, Canic Recurn, I think that's how you say it, gives you 80 MR, 400 health, some regen, which is whatever. But it also gives you a passive, which basically is just Galio's W passive, where when you're out of combat, you get a magic shield. And the magic shield, again, scales off of max health. So, of course, it's a pretty big shield on Kled, because it counts all of his health. So this is a pretty good item. Not only, like, is 80 flat MR is a shit ton, but on top of that, you get a big shield to be, like, you know, really hard to burst. Like, if you just walk up to somebody, if you walk up to, like, a Fed Echo or something with this big-ass shield, like, it's gonna be a problem for him. Like, he has to, like, either just leave or burn a whole combo, you know, just to get through the shield first. Which is pretty big for Kled, because you might be able to kill him in that time. Force Nature, again, that's another good MR option. So this is pretty straightforward. Canic Recurn is more of an anti-burst MR item. So when you're against like a fed AP assassin, like I said, like Evelyn, Echo, Fizz, whatever. And then Force of Nature is more if you're against like a fed mage, like somebody doing DPS, dot damage, Azir, whatever, stuff like that. Because this gives you like stacking MR. So this will give you 125 MR total when you fully stack the passive from taking damage. So it'll give you more if you fully stack it. This is more for not getting like one shot. This is more for just living extended fight. And then there's one decent hybrid resist item. Actually, Stoneplay is still in the game, but Stoneplay is kind of dog shit, I think. I think it's still in the game. Wait, did they remove Stoneplay? Is that real? I actually can't remember if they took it out of the game or not, but maybe they did. Anyways, I wouldn't even buy it anyway if it was still an item. There is one good dual resist item, and it's this Jack Show. It doesn't give too much health, which is fine because you're more focused on resist as Kled when you're trying to go defensive. It gives 50 armor, 50 MR, and then after a few seconds of being in combat, it increases your resist based on your resist. So based on your bonus resist. So if you have at least one or two other resist items, which is pretty easy. Like, let's say you go Tabai Maw, and you're like 5 items. Your 6th item, you could easily finish it with like a Jack Show. And it would give you like, you know, 70 extra armor. You know, I guess like 80 more MR, because Maw gives a lot of MR. Like after you stack it up. So in a team fight, it's pretty good. Or if you're like 1v1ing a hybrid damage champion. I haven't built it too much, but I think a lot of like bruisers will try building it. But of course, I do think you need some kind of resist items to like back it up so that the passive boost is actually relevant. It is kind of expensive, but it's a late game item. So these are items that I probably almost never buy. I can like extremely rarely would I ever consider. Like these would be so specific to the game that I'm in. I only put Stormrazor here because it does have synergy with the item that I'm probably building every single game, which is Voltaic. Voltaic has like the added benefit of making all of your energized items stack faster. So I was talking about it on stream a bit, and like I'm trying to think of the energized items, but none of them you would ever buy in Kled. Like Static Shib sucks, and they nerfed it this patch, so this is like a wasted item. Rapid Fire is obviously pointless. You know, you're not going Fleet Footwork, so your only option is Stormrazor, but Stormrazor doesn't sound that bad because it is 60 AD, 20% crit, bonus damage on the proc that gives you move speed, a little bit of attack speed. Like, it's not that bad. It gives you decent stats. But like I said, I'm not sure when the fuck I'd buy this. Like, maybe if I was just like, if you wanted to go a crit build, you would go like Voltaic, and then your filler second item would instead be Stormrazor. And then you would buy rest of the crit items later on after your Hydra. So, like, there could be something you could do there. Shield Bow is like, you know, it's Shield Bow. I mean, these items basically just exist. Like, they're there, maybe once every 100, 200 games, you'll buy one of them. You know, maybe you need a QSS. There you go. There's only one QSS item now. There's no more Bruiser one. You know, these are pretty rare options, you know. Collector, I usually feel like there's a better lethality or a better crit item to buy. Collector's kind of like a for fun item if you're just shitting on them, like 20 and 0 or whatever. So, you know, whatever. These items are self-explanatory. They're there. You might think about buying them for a very specific, I need to, you know, specifically dodge one move from this champion to live, you know, stuff like that. These items are, in my opinion, I would never buy them, and I wouldn't recommend buying them. I think these are just bait items on Kled. Not that they're bait in general, but I think they're just bait on Kled specifically. I heard people asking about Wit's End. They changed Wit's End a bit this patch. It no longer gives any AD. Instead, it just gives you attack speed, MR, and tenacity, which is new. Like I said, there's good MR items already. You already have good MR options. You have Maw, which actually gives you good stats, and then you have actual good MR defensive options. I don't really see the point of this item. It's too much attack speed, which is wasted, or at least not useful, I should say. 50 MR is fine, but there's other good MR items that give more. And then 20% tenacity, I don't know. I just think this is just not something Kled would make good use out of. And then you do magic damage on hit, but like, why? I don't know, this is just pointless. Cleaver, I think this is like, it's an okay item on some champs, but the way Kled works, I think you would rarely actually buy this. They ended up nerfing this item a lot this patch. They reduced how much armor you can shred from the passive by 6%. So before, you could reduce somebody's armor by up to 30% if you fully stacked it. Now you can only max shred 24% of someone's armor. Not only that, but you can also not buy a Last Whisper item if you buy Cleaver. If you buy Cleaver, you're locked out of buying any Last Whisper item. So you cannot go Cleaver Sereldas, and you cannot go Cleaver Mortar Reminder. So if you buy Cleaver, that's your pen item. That's what you chose. So if you're against someone who's actually a tank, it's not enough. 24% shred is not enough. You're going to need more pen than that. And you're going to want it instantly. You're not going to want to be stacking it up every time. So they also lowered the haste on it by 10. It used to give 30 haste, now it gives 20. Yeah, I don't think you'd buy this on Kled. The only time I think you could maybe justify buying this on Kled, personally, is if you were against a pretty squishy team that doesn't do that much percent HP damage. You could just buy this for the stats, because then you're not too worried that your armor shred's not that much if they don't have that much armor. But I think there's just better items you could buy, so I don't see the point. You know, other champs will buy this. I don't think it's that good on Kled, in my opinion. This item is just some like super bait item, because it's not correct here. This description's not correct. The stats are correct, but those passives are not correct. The actual passive is every time you get a takedown, it gives you 10 AD for the next minute. So for the next 60 seconds, you get a 10 AD buff after you get a kill. Every time you get another kill, that AD boost goes up by 1. So I feel like this is like a bait item, because people will read this and they'll be like, oh, it's kind of like an AD Medjai. It's like AD stacking every time I get a kill. But, you know, instead of Medjai's giving you like 40 AP every kill, plus like move speed, you know, if you're over 10 stacks or whatever, this gives you one extra AD, and it only lasts temporarily. It's not even permanent. I guess you don't lose them on death though, but like, yeah, I mean, there's so many good lethality items. I don't know why you would buy that. Like, Youmuu's is great. Hubris, excuse me, is not great. Opportunity is though. Axiom Arc is good. Sereldas is viable. Like, just go one of those items. Like, I don't understand the point of this item. This is another item that I feel like people will consider buying on Kled, because Kled does auto a lot with his W, so you might consider buying this. It gives you AD attack speed, and every time you auto attack, it gives you a different buff. Your first auto, it'll give you armor and MR. Next auto gives you dual pen, physical and magic pen, and then vice versa. So every time you auto, it gives you a different buff that stacks with itself. So max, you get like 20, 25 armor MR, and then 30% physical magic pen. Again, this is another item that you can't buy Last Whisper with. So if you build this item, you cannot build any Last Whisper item or any other pen item. This is the kind of thing that like sounds like maybe it would be good, but for Kled, pointless. You know, you're probably not going to auto anybody that's not a tank more than 6 times. And if you do, you don't even get that much benefit from it, because it's 30% magic pen is just wasted, essentially. You don't do any magic damage. Your only magic damage would be this 30 magic damage on hit that it gives you. So yeah, it's just pointless. There's just better things to buy, and it locks you out of buying a good item. This experimental hexplate shit. If you don't know what it does, it gives you ultimate haste. So your ultimate cooldown gets lowered. It doesn't give you real haste. It just only haste for your ultimate. 3k gold, it gives you okay stats. After you ult, it gives you like a little buff, an attack speed, move speed buff. You don't really Kled R like to initiate a 1v1. Like you're either Kled R'ing to dive somebody who you're gonna one shot, or you Kled R to like rotate into a team fight. Either way, the attack speed, move speed buff is not gonna be helping you much. I think it's just kind of like it's just taking up a slot for you. You don't really want this. This is like more of like a Trundle, like Jax type of item. Like a champion that walks up to you, presses R, and just autos you to death. That's more for like those kind of champs. I just saw some people asking about it, so I just included it here. Sterix, you know, it's fucking Sterix Gauge. It's like the same item. It just happens to give tenacity on itself now. You know, which is nice. It's nice that there's other tenacity items besides boots. 20% is just not a lot. It's just not a lot. Like, especially when they nerfed how you can stack tenacity with each other. It's like less efficient. I mean, I don't know. It's just not a lot. It gives you only health, no other stat besides AD that scales off your base AD. If you don't know, Kled's base AD is not very high compared to any like Sheen, Triforce champ, or like Juggernaut. So he doesn't really get that much AD. This is like kind of like an Alawi item. You know, when you dismount, most of the time, that's when your Sterix is going to pop. But the shield decays so fast. And the thing is, a lot of times it'll pop while you're mounted, like as you're dismounting. So the whole time you're dismounting, the shield like just keeps decaying. Like, I feel like you waste the shield a lot. You don't get much use out of it. But maybe, you know, if you're against Garen or Riven, you know, a champ that does like flat damage and then they have an execute, you could build it. So maybe there's like some kind of justification. Maybe it should be in the extremely rare category. But I'm probably not going to buy it. And I already talked about why Distance is not worth it on Kled. But yeah, I just wanted to do like a little summary of all the items. Maybe I missed some here. I hope I didn't. But that's like my initial impressions and the initial thoughts on the items. I mean, I think it makes sense. You know, this is probably what I'm going to be building the most. These are items I'm going to dip into. These are items that I still want to try. I still think they're viable in some way. Like if you build these items and you're saying it's working, I could easily believe you. There's some good defensive items, and then these items I feel like are not really worth dealing with. I think you should avoid them. So yeah, this is kind of long. Every time I look at how long the video's been, it just jump scares me, but I mean, it'll be helpful. If this helps somebody, it's worth it. Somebody's wondering what they should build right now. If you have any questions about any of these items, any of the new changes, anything, you can ask me in the comments. You can ask me on stream. I'm going to be streaming a lot. New season gameplay, of course. So, you know, don't worry about asking me. Even if you think the question you're about to ask has been asked 1,000 times, I don't care. Like, you can ask it again. Like, I like to answer questions like that. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, good luck in your games. You know, tell me if you guys have been trying anything that's been working for you. And yeah, I don't know. That's it, I guess. Have a good one. Peace. And I will see you guys later.